let's start then with actually quite a nice story, and this is the story of rare Roman graffiti in Cumbria quarry to be captured in 3D. This is the news that rare Roman graffiti from AD 207, which includes a quarry worker's caricature poking fun at a commanding officer, and a good luck phallus symbol, is to be recorded for future generations because it's in danger of being lost, presumably through erosion. And I'm a little bit, a little bit upset that I hadn't spotted this sooner. This is literally on my doorstep. Mike Collins seemingly is working with Newcastle University to make this happen, and it's quite interesting. Why did you? What drew you to this story? Because this is your pick, isn't it?
It is, and I just think it's absolutely fantastic because every year I take a primary school group to the British Museum and we look at my favourite British archaeological find, which is the Vindolanda letters.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell the kids that one of the reasons they're so fantastic is that it's the closest we can get to hearing Romans actually talking to each other and have them talking to us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's the sort of yeah, it's a public face, but it's the behind the villa door view of Rome. It's not Livy or Tacitus or Suetonius or any of the great historians. It's your Roman industry.
It's not written for posterity.
Precisely,
Yeah.
precisely that.
Yeah. Mm.
And then you get something like this, which is certainly not written for posterity. It's written in the moment because somebody's really hacked off with their boss, or they're tired, or they wish they were doing something else, or they can't wait for a beer at the end of the day. And the other thing, of course, as well, because it's graffiti, it reminds you of that wonderful scene in Life of Brian when the Roman centurion corrects Brian's Latin grammar. Now, here we've got, interestingly, Roman soldiers, it would appear, members of the Second Legion Augusta, writing in Latin on the wall of a quarry.
Yeah. Now this is also an interesting time in Britain, in the Romano-British history, on the orders of Emperor Septimus Severus, which now sounds like a Harry Potter character, unfortunately. They are refortifying and repairing elements of Hadrian's Wall after, a relatively rare incidence of uprising and violence at the time. It didn't happen as often as we sometimes characterise, but this is why they're quarrying stone, isn't it? Yeah.
Indeed, and it's worth pointing out, there's a number of the articles that have talked about this particular find have pointed out that for a period during some of the early antiquarians thought that Septimius Severus had actually built Hadrian's Wall, and that the association with Hadrian was a false one.
Right.
Because there were so many rebuilds at the time, and of course, I mean, Severus again is such a fantastic character because he was, he's known as the North African Emperor. He came from the North African provinces and actually died in York shortly after these graffiti were put on the quarry wall.
Oh, so was his son
Caracalla?
Yes, that's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always forget his name. Oh, okay, I see. Okay, that's cool. That's cool to know. Okay. Well, actually, I just finally nailed it down. It's Professor Ian Haynes of Newcastle University who's attached to this project. These inscriptions are very valuable, he says. Vulnerable, sorry, he says, to further gradual decay. This is a great opportunity to record them as they are in 2019, using the best modern technology to safeguard the ability to study them in the future. And it's worthwhile saying that this sort of technology is a relatively recent development in terms of the density now of image quality that we can rely on.
And we should say we're talking here about high definition 3D laser scanning.
Exactly.
Which is
Yeah. So the density of data points that we can actually recover from these surfaces. I mean, now you can even do these sorts of surveys driving in a car. For example, I've seen this stuff done to monitor erosion on beaches here in the north of England. You can drive along a beach and get tens of thousands of data points per meter. Or per, in a very short amount of distance. I don't want to be misquoted on that. But what's your favourite bit of graffiti then that's going to be recorded
here? Well, I mean, it's two things really. I mean, obviously it's lovely to have the inscriptions of the particular units, and here we've got the unit that was commanded by Optio Agricola. Now, obviously, anyone who knows anything about Roman Britain, Agricola is a really resonant name. Now, how this guy particularly comes to have it, we don't know whether he...
Well, he actually launched a really popular soft drink.
I'm not going there.
Agricola. No, okay. Sorry.
Yes, I know.
Go on.
But no, here we've got the. We know it's a vexillation, a battalion of the Second Legion Augusta, and the commanded by Optio Agricola. We don't know if he had the full Roman trinomina. Or whether he was just Agricola, and it was because it was a fashionable name. But that in itself is fascinating. Of course, the best would be to have Vex Lig 9th Hisp, but one day we'll get that, I hope. But, the famous missing 9th Legion, of course.
Yeah.
So there's that, but. Of course, it has to be really the human level. The good luck phallus is just something that pops up. Pops up to coin a phrase all over the Roman world.
Yes. Actually, my favourite phallus in the Roman world comes from Pompeii. Obviously, with the eruption of the volcano, an awful lot of stuff was preserved more or less in situ. Obviously, there are debates about that, but I'm pretty sure that there's a doorbell that's basically a phallus where you have to tug on the front end to ring some bells underneath. And it's hanging from a chain. They were everywhere. The Romans had a very different attitude when it came to genitalia, shall we say.
Yes, I think that is perfectly clear. You only have to look at the famous Pompeii graffiti, and I think one of the Pompeii graffiti is in the apparent brothel. I think was translated by Mary Beard as "Get it here," or something like that.
Nice. Well, actually, what she's done one of my favourite translations of the name of Caligula. As Emperor Boutykins.
Yes,
which is quite
absolutely
nice. I love that. That's quite nice.
Well, actually, and again, you think, wait a minute, okay, little boot, okay, that's maybe the literal translation, but you think actually, that she's got much closer to maybe the sense of it.
Yeah.
Given that he was a little boy at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't the evil sister murdering tyrant that we saw in I Clavdibs.
Exactly. Yeah. he was at the time. He was it was an endearing little name that the soldiers gave him when he was on campaign with them. I have to say, I do quite like the fact that you have quite a few references to basically people saying, this is the part I've done.
Oh, yeah.
Essentially, I was here, but I was here and did this, that kind of sense.
Or if you take the economic view or the disciplinary view, it's the piecework. It's don't flog me, Centurion, because I've done this much.
That's true. That's good. Oh, actually, that's a good point. That's a good point. Sorry, I was thinking far too benignly there. You're right. Yeah. See, I haven't done this bit. Honestly, don't break my legs. Yeah.
I know. I'm having a wine break now. But... also, we did all that this morning.
Yeah. But also as well, obviously, there's a wonderful caricature of the officer as well.
Indeed.
A human figure. It's going to be a real pleasure seeing how this develops, and I'm going to have to knock on Ian Haynes' door and maybe follow up on this at some point.
Well, definitely. I think it's also worth saying that certainly the coverage that we've seen on this, the 3D scans are going to be made public on a platform called Sketchfab, which I have to say is a new one on me, but it's a Historic England funded project.
Blimey.
Yeah, it's a Historic England funded project, and I think another thing is perhaps one of the reasons why this wasn't noticed before. If you look at the photographs of the team working, they're working with full rock climbing harnesses and so on high up on the wall of this quarry.
Yeah.
So although antiquarians have been looking at Hadrian's Wall for nearly 300 years now, perhaps it's not understandable why these haven't been noticed before. But also maybe it's an appetizer for what else might be there to be found with modern access equipment and modern recording techniques. But altogether, fabulous find.
Absolutely. Well, and that says presumably they were working on scaffolding of some sort in the quarry.
You'd imagine
Or
so. Some
working
kind of
down.
some kind of scaffolding or wooden ladders or some
Yeah.
kind of. They may have done rope work as well. I mean, this whole thing about the archaeology of quarries. We had the other story breaking recently about the Stonehenge, the alleged Stonehenge quarry in South Wales, where they had stone wedges which appeared to have been used to prize out the larger stones. So it's a relatively new form of industrial archaeology, but it's one that can be very rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.